This is why Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he mentions this one hadith, and he mentions sab'atun yudhilluhum Allahu fi dhillihi yawma la dhilla illa dhilluhu. Allah tabarak wa ta'ala will order that all the souls to be raised on the day of Qiyamah, and He will give shade to 7 types of people underneath His throne on the day of Qiyamah, where there will be no shade other than the shade of Allah. From amongst those 7 categories of people, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam points out the first type of person: Imamun Adil, a just ruler. A just ruler. The second type of person who he mentions, Shabun Nasha'a fi ibadatillah. That youth in particular who was nurtured, who reared himself, was surrounded in the ibadat and the worship and the obedience of Allah. Because those desires are at their most, the wants are at their most. They're being bombarded with all kinds of images, all kinds of thoughts. If going against those thoughts, going against those images, going against those desires, one stems their desire and makes ibadat of Allah in their youth, then Allah will take them out from the people of the day of Qiyamah and put them underneath His ARSH. So valued is this youth. It doesn't mean we neglect the rest of the people, because there are 5 more that are mentioned in the hadith. وَرَجُلٌ قَلْبُهُ مُعَلَّقٌ بِالْمَسَاجِدِ. So those people who are thinking we are not youth anymore, so then how do we get this great opportunity? Then the hadith further entails that particular person whose heart is forever connected with the masjid. When they leave the masjid, they think, Ya Allah, I wish I was back in the masjid. May Allah Ta'ala make our hearts like this, brothers. That when we are away from the masjid, we desire to be back in the masjid. And the only example we can equate it to is like taking a fish out of water. The fish would feel very uncomfortable because the climate is not appropriate for that fish. Similarly, the case of a Muslim, similar the case of a mu'min. We should feel that want, that desire, that talab, that drive to be in the masjid when we are outside the masjid. It further states, وَرَجُلَانْ تَحَابَّا فِي اللَّهِ اجْتَمَعَا عَلَيْهِ وَتَفَرَّقَا عَلَيْهِ. That 2 people or 2 types of people will gather, and they will meet, gather and depart only for the sake of Allah. Only for the sake of Allah. Further mentions, وَرَجُلٌ دَعَتْهُ إِمْرَأَةٌ ذَاتُ حُسْنٍ وَجَمَالٍ فَقَالَ إِنِّي أَخَافُ اللَّهِ. The students in the universities, the students in the colleges, the young men and women who are at work in the environment, pay attention to this next category of people which will be underneath the arsh on the day of Qiyamah. That particular man, and remember the hadith where he mentions rajul, it does not exclude the sisters. If someone was in this predicament, then one has the fullest optimism in Allah's mercy that if a sister was also in the same predicament, Allah would also put them underneath the arsh as well. But that particular person, that particular man, I'm mentioning man because the word of the hadith entails man. دَعَتْهُ إِمْرَأَةٌ ذَاتُ حُسْنٍ وَجَمَالٍ. A man is confronted by a woman who is bedazzling in her beauty, and she entices him. And what does he say? He refuses and says, I only fear in my Allah. It doesn't mention that this is done a number of times. It mentions that this is only if done once. دَعَتْهُ إِمْرَأَةٌ. It doesn't mention anything in the hadith which will indicate that it has to be done a great number of times or numerous occasions, different climates. If one person can refrain at that point in time, When the desire is at its most, when no one is looking, you know that now I can fulfill my desire in a haram way. But a person stops for a moment and says, no, in actual fact, I fear my Allah. Allah will give that person shade underneath His arsh on the day of Qiyamah as well. To complete the hadith, two more types of people. رَجُلٌ تَصَدَّقَ بِصَدَقَةٍ فَأَخْفَاهَا حَتَّى لَا تَعْلَمَ شِمَالُ مَا تُنْفِقُ يَمِينُ. Such a person gives sadaqah in such a way where the left hand does not even know what the right hand has spent. Meaning they give sadaqah in such a quiet manner. They give sadaqah for a way that will only please Allah. Optimism in Allah's mercy, not hoping for the reward of the people, the praise of the people. But last but not least, in this particular hadith, before we go on to obviously the main topic, رَجُلٌ ذَكَرَ اللَّهَ خَالِيًا فَفَاضَتْ عَيْنَاهُ. Another type of person that will be underneath the arsh on the day of Qiyamah will be that person who remembers Allah in seclusion to such an extent that tears start flowing from their eyes. May Allah Ta'ala make us from amongst one of these people.